Hello, everybody, and thanks for tuning in to another whiskey review here on Who Gives a Dram. I'm your host, Connor. For those joining us on YouTube, I appreciate you checking out the channel. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Leave the videos a like and a thumbs up and a comment or whatever you do these days. And hit the bell notification down below so that you are always notified when a new whiskey review comes out. For those listening on Apple Podcasts, thank you for continuing to listen to the whiskey review portion of the podcast here. If you want the full unedited, uncut version of the podcast, it's only available via audio, so go check it out on all podcast platforms. You can view it anywhere: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, yada yada yada. The best place to reach me at Who Gives a Dram on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok, so make sure you go check me out there as well. And that's it. So today we have a very special bottle, a bottle that I was excited to receive, and a bottle that I'm excited to review. I have reviewed this bottle on my other podcast, Bourbon with Friends, already. I reviewed it last week with Paul. If you haven't checked out our episode, it's episode 99, technically, but it's just titled McConnell's Sherry Cask Review. So go check it out over there, Bourbon with Friends, on all podcast platforms. And you can listen to Paul and I kind of break down in a little bit of detail McConnells and this beautiful sherry cask finish offering that McConnell's just released. But that's what we're reviewing today. We're doing McConnell's sherry cask finish Irish whiskey. There's the bottle right there for those on. Yeah, get a good look at that. So creepy. That's what we're reviewing today. And I was excited to get this. I got this in the mail from the people at McConnell's last week. It was kind of unexpected, but it was a pleasant surprise because I love McConnell's. I love McConnell's very much. And I reviewed it not this past March, but the March before. The early days, the annals of history of Who Gives a Dram. So go back and check it. It's on YouTube and on all podcast platforms as well. So go check out our McConnell's review. It's one of my favorite Irish whiskeys. I'm not going to lie. For a standard entry-level Irish whiskey, I think there aren't many that beat McConnell's. And I've been saying that for a year and a half now. So as soon as I figured out what McConnell's was, really, actually almost 2 years. So I've always been a fan of McConnell's. I enjoy it quite a bit, and I was like a kid in a candy store with this McConnell sherry cask because I love sherry cask finished whiskeys in general. Before the podcast even started, I was telling the people listening on audio that I wasn't even sure what whiskey I was going to do. I was going to do Rabbit Hole Derringer as another, a port finish, sherry cask finish. Just because I usually gravitate towards those finished bourbons, especially when it's warm outside. But I forgot I had this McConnell, so that's what we're doing. And again, I kind of received it out of the blue. And thank you I'm pretty sure Sarah sent it over from McConnell's. But thank you to whoever sent this over, to Paul and I. I mean, this is such a great gift, or just a bottle to receive. So, obviously that's not going to affect my review at all of this. It has been opened up. I poured it on Bourbon with Friends. I poured a little bit this weekend. I had this with a cigar, and it wasn't fantastic. I think it was the cigar, though. The cigar wasn't that good. It was a Monte Cristo White, and I think I got it from a gas station with a humidor, and I just think the guy doesn't know how to keep care of cigars. So, but we're going to try it again today. Solid cork pop. Real cork. Heavy topper. Doesn't get much better. Let it sit for a sec. McConnell's is a very, very storied brand in Irish whiskey. They were the first best-selling brand of Irish whiskey in Ireland. Late 1700s, early 1800s. McConnell's was killing it. They were like the Jameson of back then. The distillery caught on fire and they lost everything. And they built it back up to a place of prominence where they were again the best-selling Irish whiskey on the market. Again, an historical brand. And then Prohibition happened. And the United States was the number one importer of Irish whiskey in the world. So when the number one importer doesn't drink alcohol anymore, you lose most of your business. So unfortunately, McConnells went back out of business during that time period, the 1930s. And it stayed that way for a very long time until just a few years ago. The brand was brought back. I'll give these people a shout out right now. Let's see. Oh, it doesn't say who brought it back. Reborn after 90 years for a new generation of whiskey enthusiasts, it is quite possibly the greatest comeback in the history of whiskey. Bold. Take one sip and you'll know some things are worth the wait, Slante. Yeah, they were gone for 90 years, just about. And I'm pretty sure this was brought back in 2020, if I'm not mistaken. And it's been killing it ever since. I don't think it's nothing's ever going to overtake Jameson as the number one Irish whiskey anymore, but it's very popular. I see it all the time when I'm out. I honestly see it at every single liquor store now. And it was hard to find for a bit there, but I see McConnells almost everywhere now. Not everywhere, but in most spots that I go to. But we're going to talk about this sherry cask finish. I just don't know the MSRP on it. Let's see here. irishmalts.com it might tell us. 5041. Okay, so it's saying $50 online. So we'll say $40 to $50 for this pour. The specifics, the statistics, I should say. 750 milliliter bottle. It is 46% alcohol by volume. So it's coming in a little hotter than most Irish whiskeys, especially the entry level ones are usually 80 proof. Proper 12, Jameson, the Sexton. Funny thing about McConnell's, doesn't have the E in whiskey. Now, typically Ireland and the United States of America include the E in whiskey. Everywhere else, Scotland, Japan, everywhere else in the world does not include the E. But McConnell's does not include the E in their label. The reason being was all the way back in 1776, the E wasn't standard in whiskey, and then it became standard in Ireland. But because McConnell's predated it, they kept with the tradition of not including the E. So that's the reason for McConnell's not having the E in the whiskey. I think you spell whiskey with an E. I think it's Whiskey, but that's just my humble opinion. Close this out. I don't do color on the podcast. I never do color because I just don't know how to tell good color. But this seems like a nice, almost like a burnt gold, nice sherry finished whiskey. A lot of the times Irish whiskeys are a little lighter. And scotches are a little lighter as well, depending on what you get. But this is nice and bold and a good color on it, I think. And it's a good color because it makes me want to drink it. It doesn't look like dehydrated piss water. And yeah, the nose is just the same as I got before. It's got like a strong wood on there, but a lot of fruit forward, a green apple. I get that a lot on Irish whiskeys, green apple. I think it's just the maltiness coming forward, and that's what I associate it with. But a lot of green apple, strong wood, not necessarily oak, but wood on it. The maltiness comes out in plethora after giving it a swirly poo. Definitely a little bit of like darker fruit in there as well, which explains the sherry. Raisins. I get a little bit like fig Newtons on it as well. Little grape in there too. A lot of a smorgasbord of different aromas on the nose. I quite enjoy the nose a lot. It's got a delicate sweetness to it. It plays well with the maltiness of typical Irish whiskey. The sherry cask finish is a nice touch on what is usually already a pretty fruity whiskey. Yeah, some nice floral notes in there as well. But what's standing out the most is the wood. You're getting a little bit of vanilla on the back end, or kind of in the distance of the nose. But what's on the forefront is a mixture of green apple and kind of ripe light fruits, but then also raisins, plums, cherries, grapes, like darker fruits as well, kind of all squeezed into one cup. In a wood cup. It's got a nice inviting, little bit of a spicy nose on it as well. A little bit of like a baking spice on there, cinnamon, allspice. It makes you want to drink it. The nose is a home run on this. So we'll sip it now. See what we think. Cheers, everybody, to another review on Who Gives a Dram, McConnell's Sherry Cask Finish Irish Whiskey. Just as I remember, the green apple translates to the palate quite a bit. More oak and more wood shavings on the palate, but what I do get on the palate now, a bit of tobacco sweetness, but again, that green apple and those darker fruits stay. There's more dark fruit on the palate. I get like cherry grape on this, dark cherry grape, and a little bit of like dark. I was gonna say dark grape. That's a raisin, obviously. Yeah, I get a little bit of I get a I get a little bit of chocolate and marshmallow on graham cracker. Oh, you mean s'mores? Yes. I get a little bit of dehydrated grape on here, dark grape. Oh, you mean a raisin? Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm an idiot. But that's what I get. It's got the light fruits in there, but it's also got the dark fruits. It's nice. It complements everything complements itself well. It's 46, so it doesn't have a whole lot of burn on it. It doesn't have a whole lot of finish. It doesn't really have a huge bodied finish on this, from what I can tell. It's a little bitter on the back end. This is 5 years old, I think. Yeah, it's 5 years old. It's a little bitter. It got a little bit of like dark sweetness on the back, maybe chocolate. It is a little bitter. Give it a swirly poo, and it's not the best. And I remember that being my largest downfall of this pour the first time I had it. And honestly, you would think this would be a good cigar whiskey, but I think that downplays the ability for this to be a great cigar whiskey. It's not bad, but a cigar is already bitter. You got to have something sweet all the way through to counter out that, and this just doesn't have it. The finish is a little lackluster to me. It's not bad. It's just not up my alley. It's very bitter. It doesn't stick. There's no burn to it. It's not spicy. It's just kind of bitter. It's like bitter, dark. It's like biting. I'm pretty sure I said this on Bourbon with Friends. It's like biting into a unsweetened dark chocolate bar, but more bitter. Like there's no sweetness on it, but there's that richness to it. A little bit of spice on the back end as well. There's not a big finish on it. It does have a nice spice on it, though. The spice definitely carries throughout. And if you're a fan of that spice, if you like rye, you might like the finish on this. But I mean, listen, I'm not going to say I don't enjoy this whiskey, because I do. I'm not going to say that I would not drink this, because I would, as evident as to how much is gone in the bottle after a week. But there's just something about it that doesn't blow my hair back. And I have a nice head of hair, so, it's not hard to blow my hair back because there's lots of it. But I would definitely recommend it if you see it. I mean, it's a brand new release. I'm pretty sure this is going to fit into the staple of consistent releases from McConnells now. If you see it, it's different. If you have that $40 to $50 to spend, I would spend it. I'm not positive that's the MSRP, but I'm guessing it is. If you can find it for less, it's a definite buy. 40 and under, definite buy. 40 to 50, if you have the extra cash, buy it. Again, I'm very thankful that I got this sent to me. It's awesome. I love getting whiskey in the mail. It's just that finish kind of degrades it for me. It kind of brings the score down quite a bit. I haven't seen this on any shelves yet. I'm not sure how widely available it is in the US, so I'm not going to base it on availability. Strictly on taste and price and what is in the bottle. And I'm gonna say it's a solid let me get one more sip in. It's like an 8.3. Pretty good. 8.2. Stamp that. 8.2. It's pretty good. I'm not going to say it's phenomenal. The more I drink it, it's like the opposite effect of letting it open up. It just kind of, I'm finding more and more wrong with it. But again, it's not a bad thing. It's just not quite my taste. I love Sherry Cask and I love McConnells. I'm always going to support McConnells. But something is off. I'm pretty sure it's the finish for me that just kind of doesn't sit well with me. But that being said, it's a solid pour. I think 8.2 is a good score. That's kind of like, buy it. If you run out of it, it might not be the first bottle that you restock, but you're going to want to have it. I wouldn't say it's in the sevens. It's not bad. It's just, and sevens isn't bad, by the way. Sevens is still solid. Because I would buy this again once I'm out. That kind of constitutes an 8. So, yeah, I think that's a fair score. 8.2 McConnell Sherry Cask finish. Irish whiskey, the original Irish whiskey. And that's going to do it for the review, guys. I don't think I have anything else left to say on the whiskey itself. I'm just happy, again, that I received it. You can listen to the full review on Bourbon with Friends as well. We recorded it and released it last week. Check out Bourbon with Friends on all podcast platforms. Obviously, if you want to listen to this full episode, there's like an extra 20 minutes on the front end of the podcast. Go in, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher Breaker, all those podcast platforms have Who Gives a Dram, so you can listen to the full podcast here. But I appreciate you guys listening on YouTube, watching the video, checking out the video podcast here. It means a lot. I like doing these whiskey reviews, and I hope you guys like watching me do them. Just a fucking 25-year-old kid drinking whiskey. This is the 84th episode that I've done, so I've done 84 whiskeys. And I'm going to do 84 more at least. So thank you. A lot of cool things happening. So to follow my whiskey journey, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter are all Who Gives a Dram. Make sure you're following Bourbon with Friends on all social platforms as well. Make sure you are subscribed to the podcast, rate and review on Apple Podcasts. Make sure you subscribe here on YouTube. Hit the bell notification, like the videos, comment on the videos. Let me know what you think about McConnell Sherry Cask. Let me know if this is something that you would buy if you haven't seen it yet. And if you have seen it and you have tried it, let me know what you think. I love to hear from people and see how our tasting notes coincide with one another. So it's one of my favorite parts about the whiskey community is seeing what everyone else tastes. And then you usually end up tasting what they say. But I look forward to talking with you guys about this. So again, thank you for joining the show. Thank you for checking us out. And always remember, whiskey's the water of life. So let's start living.